A very good evening and welcome to a brand new edition of News First Weekend, coming to you live from our Newsfirst studios in Colombo. I'm Arundhati Naik. Let's start off with a look at the stories making headlines this evening.
Sri Lanka Army will not resort to any decisions that would pose a threat to national security, says Army Commander. Permanent High Court at Bar established to hear cases pertaining to the misuse of public funds to commence tomorrow. Minister Sajith Premadasa pledges to build 100 Udagammana projects. MPs Vimal Weerawansa and Prasanna Ranawira summoned before the Parliamentary Privileges Committee. Prisons Department submits names of 18 convicts sentenced to death who are involved in drug-related crimes to the Ministry of Justice. Croatia and France seek a storybook ending at the 2018 World Cup final.
President Maithripala Sirisena, who left the island on an official visit to Italy, arrived at the Leonardo da Vinci Fiumicino Airport in Rome today.
During his visit to Italy, President Sirisena will participate in the 24th session of the Committee on Forestry and the 6th World Forest Week organized by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, scheduled to begin tomorrow. President Sirisena is also scheduled to address the session tomorrow.
Shifting to sports news, the score is now level after France scored their first goal in the 18th minute and Croatia scored their first in the 27th minute of the FIFA World Cup final in Russia. Croatia can cause a massive upset, but France are favourites as Moscow basked in sweltering summer sun and the world's spotlight on the big day of the FIFA World Cup final. The Sunday Times reported today that the first sitting of the Permanent High Court at Bar, established to hear cases pertaining to the misuse of public funds, bribery and corruption, will commence tomorrow.
Sri Lanka Insurance Corporation's one-time chairman and former president's chief of staff, Gamini Senarath, and the Insurance Corporation's former managing director, Piyadasa Kudabalage, will be the first to be indicted before the newly set up Permanent High Court at Bar. They will face charges of misappropriation of funds from the Sri Lanka Insurance Corporation by investing millions of rupees in ventures, including the Grand Hyatt Hotel project. The Sunday Times also reported that the offences which can be tried by the Permanent High Court include criminal breach of trust by public servants or by bankers, merchants or agents, criminal breach of trust by public servants in respect of money, dishonestly receiving stolen property and assisting in concealment of stolen property. Quoting a senior Justice Ministry official, the Sunday Times reports that around 100 state attorneys are to be recruited to the Attorney General's Department to fast-track the prosecution process through the special court. High Court judges Sampath Abekon, Sampath Wijeratne and Champa Janaki Rajaratne have been appointed to the bench of the Permanent High Court at Bar.
Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa visited the Sri Vidyashanti Mahapirivana Viharya in Piliyandala today to observe progress on the construction work. Subsequently, the former president responded to questions posed by journalists.
The question, the answer. I know the question, but I do not know the answer. No, you ask questions too, don't you?
ලොකු හාමුදුරුවෝ දන්නවා හරියටම ඊළඟට ඉදිරිපත් වෙන්නේ කවුද කියලා. ගෝඨාභය රාජපක්ෂ මහත්තයාවම කරගන්නවා කියලා කිව්වා. ඇයි ඔබතුමා අපිට කියන්නේ නැතුව හාමුදුරුවෝ විතරක් හොරෙන් ඒක කිව්වේ?
No, I have not told anyone this yet. I have not told the Thera.
හාමුදුරුවෝ කියන්නේ ගෝඨාභය රාජපක්ෂ මහත්තයාවම අපි මේක කරගන්නවා කියලා. ඇත්තම
When I come in, Gotabaya will be able to do the work.
මේකත් එකක් තියෙනවා. මේ වෙන විට රටේ මේ විශේෂ අධිකරණය පිහිටවන්න දැන් ළඟයි. මොකක් වේද ජනාධිපතිතුමා විශේෂ අධිකරණයක්?
No, we have a problem regarding the selection of special courts. That is what is being said. Gamini Senarath, Gotabaya and everyone else will be brought there. Other cases will not come there. There are so many problems in the country. I'm sure there is a list. I think there are a number of cases at the Attorney General's department.
නීතිපති දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවේ.
ඔබතුමා හිතේ ජනාධිපතිවරයා වශයෙන් දැන් මෙහෙම විශේෂ අධිකරණයක් ආවොත්
No, I am saying we do not need special courts. It is my opinion that the judiciary currently has the strength to hear all of this. Priority has been given here based on political needs to exact vengeance on political foes. That is what is being done. It is pointless to say anything about this government beyond that.
බලි ගැනීමට. ඒකනේ කරන්නේ. ඉතින් ඊට වඩා කියලා වැඩක් නැහැ නේ මේ ආණ්ඩුව.
අවසාන ප්‍රශ්නේ මම මේක අන්තිමට තියාගත්තේ ආරංචිය.
ඇති වෙන්න තියෙනවා දැන්.
නෑ මාධ්‍ය වාර්තා පළ කරා සිරන්ති රාජපක්ෂ මහත්මිය ජනාධිපතිවරණයට ඉදිරිපත් වෙනවා කියලා. මේක ඇත්ත.
Speaking at a conference held in Maharagama yesterday, JVP leader Anukumara Dissanayaka expressed the following views.
States have gained the ability to buy the leaders of our country for money. What kind of leaders are these? Reports say that the former president was bought by a Chinese company for $7.6 million. He has not rejected it. He is talking about other matters. He cannot refute it. A debate is to be held in Parliament next week. Remember this, during this debate we are prepared to divulge the details including the numbers of the checks, the banks at which they were cashed and the names of the individuals who cashed those checks.
Convening a media briefing in Panduasnora yesterday, UNP MP Tushara Indunil had this to say.
The fact that Pushpa Rajapaksa received 19.4 million rupees from the Chinese company CICT became a popular topic in the country. Pushpa Rajapaksa is the beloved wife of Basil Rajapaksa. CICT is the company that was involved in the construction of the Colombo South port. Namal Rajapaksa says that CICT paid the sum of 19.4 million rupees to Pushpa Rajapaksa as aid for housing development project. Of course, I do not know where or for which group of innocents Pushpa and Basil Rajapaksa undertook a housing development project, since such a project has not been reported. However, we do know that they built themselves a palatial residence in Malwana Gampaha for them to live in. We also know that the cost for this was covered through 3 checks of 10 million rupees each on separate occasions.
The Central Bank of Sri Lanka has announced that steps will be taken to liquidate the ETI finance company, which is owned by the EAP group, if the financial crisis faced by the company is not resolved by the 30th of September. Officials of the Central Bank had reportedly met with depositors of the embattled finance company.
There are 3 Central Bank representatives on the top floor of the ETI headquarters. We met with them and were informed that they have been given time until the 30th of September to make payments to depositors or to at least bring in an investor. If the directors fail to do this by the 30th of September, then the company will be liquidated. We asked how much of our deposits we would be able to recover if it is liquidated. They said they would be able to pay about 67% and that the problem could be resolved within 6 months. We also asked about the new investor who is coming in. The Central Bank representative Ranavira said that Shivajyoti is a broker and not the investor. I directly questioned Mr. Shivajyoti yesterday and asked him if he is the investor or the broker. At that time he said clearly that he is the investor, that he is buying it and that he is the director and that it will be purchased under his name. This is what the ETI Board of Directors is saying, but the Central Bank is giving us another story.
A meeting was held between members of the ETI Board of Directors and depositors at the company's head office yesterday. They stole our money in their suits and ties. If people who steal mangoes and coconuts can be imprisoned, but the suits who steal our money are being protected, what is the meaning of this government?
The committee, ETI and the Central Bank are all doing nothing. These people are despairing now. Since January, people have been coming here and suffering. They have nothing left.
As far as I know, these people are to be produced before court by the CID on the 17th. We are hoping to make a statement before court on behalf of the depositors on this date. The depositors have agreed to this. ETI Finance reportedly has over 25,000 depositors. Depositors claim that the total sum of deposits amounts to approximately 36 billion rupees. No bank financial institutions, including ETI Finance, are regulated through the central bank's Department of Supervision of Non-Bank Financial Institutions. Among the regulatory functions of this department are the supervision of these finance companies and the calling of annual income and the expenditure reports. Whether it is a bank or a finance company, if the money is being collected from the public, then it falls under the purview of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. While companies like ETI were collapsing recently, deposits amounting to about 32 billion rupees were collected from the public. Even if you add up all the assets of this company, it will not amount to even 15 billion rupees. Now there is a question as to how they will repay the 34 billion in deposits. What we are asking is this: what happened to the annual review of this company that collected money from the public by the central bank? What kind of supervision was done? Who were the officials who supervised it? And what did they do? We suspect whether while this company was collapsing, a portion of the public's deposit found their way into the hands of these central bank officials. When more finance companies collapse in the near future, and as people are thrown from the frying pan to the fire, we question whether the central bank will continue to remain silent. Reports indicate that a new investor is to come on board to resolve the financial crisis faced by ETI Finance. Reports also say that this will lead to an investment of $75 million. It also noted that of this total, a sum of $32 million has already been received. Depositors have reportedly received 10% of this sum.
They have received about $43 million by selling off assets. We have been paid 10%. We have been informed that there is another portion that is left over. Where is that money? Have they used it for their other businesses? We have gotten to know that it may have been utilized for the other businesses. If this is the case, then the central bank must intervene.
If an investor has paid money, then that money should be used to repay the depositors in order to resolve the ETI crisis. This should be the first priority. If this money is being used for other affiliated businesses of this company, whether it be media institutions, cinemas or jewelry shops, then it is a grave injustice. We call on the government and the central bank to ensure that if money has been received from an investor, then the first task at hand is to immediately repay the public's money. The central bank has been conferred the responsibility of regulating banks and registered financial institutions. ETI Finance Limited is bankrupt today due to the lack of proper supervision by the central bank and because depositors' money was poorly managed and used to finance other businesses. As a result, a large group of depositors have lost their investments. It was only afterwards that the government stepped in to provide relief to the depositors. Now, while an investor has come forward, the priority should be to ensure that depositors receive that money. If instead that money goes back into the hands of the owners of ETI or to finance other ventures like media businesses, it will not serve the interests of the depositors. To the officials at the central bank who neglected their duty, we pose this question. What would be the situation if such a fate were to befall someone in your family? Think for a minute. Stop deceiving the public and take steps to ensure that the depositors' monies are returned as soon as possible.
The renovation of the Murattava Vava under the government's Gampiraliya program commenced today. The event was held under the auspices of Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe.
Look at the mud and the sand. Who will procure this? We are paying to clean and repair this. Who will it go to? That is correct. We light the lamp and they attain nirvana. So we have decided to protect you. This task has been entrusted to the Divisional Secretariat, the Farmers' Societies and the Agricultural Offices. Sell it all. Sell it and place the money in a fund at the Farmers' Organization. Our Finance Minister and Secretary are working on a new law to protect this. Look after this and don't tell me if anything is stolen. How much will you get if this is cleaned? Will you receive 1 million? More? 10 million? Even more? Even I am considering working in the field now. This country has democracy and development today like no other country in the world. Our ministers are being caught today even before the charges are proven. In the past, we remember a time where they clung to their ministries even if the charges were proven. The man who did the accusing would disappear. Minister of Finance and Mass Media. While ministers and MPs are being identified even before the charges are proven, although they have resigned, Why are you still silent even after the charges against the Prime Minister or the central bank bond scam have been proven? Shouldn't the Prime Minister resign in the name of the democracy in the country?
Joint opposition MPs Vimal Weerawansa and Prasanna Ranawira have been summoned to appear before the Parliamentary Committee on Ethics and Privileges tomorrow regarding their recent behaviour on the floor. Minister Ranjith Madhumabandara, a member of the Committee on Ethics and Privileges, said a future course of action regarding the two MPs would be decided following the committee sitting.
The members of the Committee on Ethics and Privileges are Tilak Marapana, Ranjith Madhumabandara, Faisal Mustafa, Sri Skandaraja, Douglas Devananda, Gayantha Karunatilaka, Anura Kumar Disanayaka, Susil Premajantha and E. Saravanapavan. We have summoned two MPs who behaved in an obscene manner to the Committee on Ethics and Privileges. We will watch the relevant video footage and deliberate with the other members too. We will advise the MPs on how they must behave in Parliament in line with Parliament tradition, and if disciplinary action is required, we will take the necessary action.
Army Commander Lieutenant General Mahesh Senanayake says the Sri Lanka Army will not under any circumstances resort to any decisions that would pose a threat to national security. Issuing a statement, the Army Commander said that as a responsible army, the Sri Lanka Army would not close down any army camps.
The statement was issued in response to media reports regarding the closure of army camps in the northern province. Lieutenant General Senanayake said that the right-sizing process has always been happening in the army and had even taken place during the war and also in the post-war period. He said, through that, the troops mainly deployed for administrative duties are relieved and mobilized for field duties to gain better productivity, thereby doubling their efficiency. Lieutenant General Senanayake notes that this process does not allow any army camp to be closed, but it instead enables the majority of troops in those camps to be deployed for emergency, disaster needs and nation-building tasks in an effective manner. While noting that some false media reports try to claim that this process has led to a large let-up in the security arrangements in the north and east, Senanayake added, it certainly is not a disbanding of battalions, but is only a restructuring with the intention of distributing human and material resources equally among other battalions.
The Human Rights Commission of Sri Lanka has, in writing, voiced its opinion regarding the government's decision to enforce the death penalty.
The Human Rights Commission or HRCSL's opinion was conveyed in a letter to President Maithripala Sirisena, signed by the chairperson of the Commission, Dr. Deepika Udugama. The HRCSL raises several concerns through this letter. Extract. We admit there are huge social problems caused by drug trafficking and that drug smugglers are engaged in serious antisocial processes. However, it is the Commission's view that it can be successfully addressed not by the implementation of vindicative punishments such as death penalty, but by capturing the drug traffickers efficiently and properly and enforcing serious punishments appropriate to their crimes. If the convicted drug traffickers already in the jail engage with the outside world using new technology and carry out the drug trade, the correct solution should be to strengthen the security arrangements in the prison with modern technology and to constantly monitor the prison officers involved in these activities and effectively enforce law against them. End of extract. Furthermore, the HRCSL notes that it is a well-known fact that the main factor for the spread of drug trafficking in this scale is the support from political connections and some sections of law enforcement. The Commission wrote to the President, we see that the quick and ineffective solutions such as implementing death penalty without addressing the reasons will not be successful in the long term to save our society from this drug menace. The HRCSL also reminds the President that Sri Lanka voted in favour of a UN General Assembly resolution calling for a universal moratorium on executions in December 2016 along with 116 other countries.
Meanwhile, the Prisons Department says 4 Pakistani nationals are among the 18 drug traffickers who are sentenced to death. Prisons media spokesperson, Prisons Commissioner Tushar Upuldeniya said a list containing the names of the convicts was forwarded to the Ministry of Justice last Friday as the President ordered to produce a report on the people who were involved in drug trafficking while behind bars. Meanwhile, the Prisons Department has decided to call for applications for the post of executioner next week. And up next is a look at Action TV.
These barrels are placed outside homes in the villages of Koshenagara and Ihalatalwawa in Bingiria
to collect water from the bowsers, which make the rounds once a week on Saturdays. As the bowsers did not come around this week, some of the villagers were forced to travel 5 kilometers to purchase water. While there are plenty of wells in both villages, due to the heavy salinity of the water, it is unsuitable to drink or cook food with. 4 years ago, when a spring containing water was identified in one of the villages, the owners of the land on which this spring is located made a priceless sacrifice. While this Good Samaritan informed the Bingiria Divisional Secretariat to use this spring to supply clean water to about 606 families in these two villages, a clean drinking water project was initiated here in line with the Dayatikirula program, which was focused on the northwestern province that year. Accordingly, this well was built at a cost of 1,540,000 rupees. This tank was erected on the premises of the Tisogama Primary Medical Care Unit to store water pumped from the well. The 3.5 million rupees estimated to be the cost of construction of this water tank, 3 million rupees has already been spent. The volunteer labour provided by the villagers is also taken into consideration. This water tank would have a value of over 6 million rupees. However, it is yet to serve its primary purpose. The public charged that while Bingiria and surrounding areas were suffering from a severe drought last year, the Bingiria Pradeshya Sabha turned this well into a spring of personal wealth to line their pockets. There is a chronic water shortage here, and after the spring was discovered and the well was built, the Divisional Secretariat and the Pradeshya Sabha have been selling the water from here. The Bingiria Pradeshya Sabha has sunk this tube and motor into the well in order to pump water as they wish. Shouldn't action be taken immediately to ensure that the people of these two villages, who are the true beneficiaries of the gift of this spring, are able to quench their thirst without having to face numerous hardships? Co-chairpersons of the Kurunegala District Development Coordination Committee, this is over to you.
The 900th phase of the Samata 7 Yali Pibidana Udagamana program was held in Valleyweather. The event was held under the auspices of Deputy Leader of the UNP and the Minister of Housing and Construction, Sajid Premadasa.
The Minister also laid the foundation stone to start off the construction of this village known as Saviyagama. 22 houses are to be built in Saviyagama and deeds of ownership were also presented at the event. I would like to tell you that while our rivals are preparing a conspiratory rally to panic the people of the country, we will be ready to build 100 houses on the same day. While this project is underway, I have planned to construct 100 mobile service stations under the purview of the Housing and Construction Ministry in 100 different divisional secretariats and answer the questions of thousands of people in just 24 hours. Some envy us when we build these villages under the Udagamana project. The lands given to construct these 2,500 houses are given free by the Good Governance government. A red cent won't be charged. And I would like to say, within the first 24 hours this government completes its 3 years of governance, we will definitely start the Udagamana project from Point Pedro to Dondra Head.
And with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of Weekend Primetime News. Thank you very much for joining us. Good night.